So welcome back to another fantastic day from Hustle to Holy, how to transform your business by igniting your divine feminine. Today we're highlighting another fabulous woman, Randy. Randy, thank you so much for being a part of this series from Hustle to Holy. Really appreciate your time, and I'm so excited to learn more about you and for our audience to learn more about you as well.
To be here. I'm very happy to be here.
Great, great. So viewers, those of you who aren't familiar with Randy, Randy is the founder and CEO of the global nonprofit organization Project Happiness, with a loyal following of 2.5 million people. She has been covered in O Magazine, NBC, ABC, and the Huffington Post. I am so excited for our time together today. So before we dive in to talk a little bit more about the masculine and the feminine energy, I'd love to learn more about you, your upbringing, you know, who you are and where you grew up, all that good stuff.
Oh, sure. I'd love to share a bit. I don't really talk about my upbringing a lot, so this is kind of fresh new territory for me. I actually grew up in Canada and in Montreal, that area, and, you know, kind of normal family thing. It looked pretty much lovely on the outside, you know, and, you know, siblings, parents, dog, the whole kit and caboodle. But my mom suffered from chronic depression, and this kind of colored the family life a little bit. She really did her best. There was not a lot of support for her at that time. And even as a little kid, I can remember that oh my gosh, all I wanted to do was make things better. And I wonder if people in your audience have experienced that kind of scenario too. So there was a lot of fighting in the house also, and I tried to be the peacemaker and one of those, you know, just to smooth things over, make everything better. But my passion, I guess, my escape was creativity. I loved everything that was creative. Music, dance, art, all of it, reading. And then the outdoors was, I was an avid skier from a very young age and just really appreciated outdoors. Yeah, that was the kind of tenor. And in many ways, I could not have done, you know, some of the things that I've done in my life had I not been in this type of circumstance. So, you know, you learn from everything, you grow from everything, right?
Absolutely. There's always an empowering interpretation to our story, and it's absolutely the perfect thing that needed to happen for us to step into who we are today. And as you mentioned, it allowed your creativity and that whole other side of you that may have not been accessed otherwise. Who's to say?
Yeah.
Right? We don't know. But really, you know, that leads to our next question. So where do you see your upbringing really supported you with where you're at today?
Well, it created this love of learning and expressing, you know, myself through creativity, and also this really deep-seated curiosity about people and how people tick. and wanting to go deep, to understand emotions, to understand dynamics and all of that. I think that sparked it at that time. And I can remember at 13, which is like a formative time in, all of our lives as young women. I really wanted my mom to be a role model for me. It was almost as though if she could be happy and successful in her own life, that gave me permission to step into my best self. Unfortunately, it was, as I said, it was really hard for her. Not that she didn't want to, but she didn't have the support around her to do that. So, as as a young child, I wasn't in the position to help her, but that actually made me want to help other people. It kind of birthed that spark inside of me. And years later, even though I could not help my mom, when I was sitting across the table with my teenager, who said to me one night, "Mom, I'm stressed out. I want to be happy, but I don't know how." Woo, woo, woo. It was like alarm bells going, So I couldn't support my mom, but that ignited a fire in me to do everything I could to help my child. And nothing would get in the way of that. And, I'm sure you can imagine it, just like that became my drive, my passion, something that kept me up at night. How can we work on this? How can we help this? And because this quest for happiness is like such a universal thing, that awakened in me this desire to give back in some ways to others too. And therefore we started Project Happiness and the curriculum and the post and all this other stuff that started at that, I guess, seated in childhood, but started at that pivotal moment.
And it's beautiful in hearing your story and hearing you speak and all that's blossomed. It's almost such a beautiful tribute to your mother, Project Happiness, right? It's a way to even leave a legacy on her behalf of that you've created this beautiful space for people that really need that support in their life.
Actually, that's very touching. I never thought of it that way, but that strikes a chord for me.
Oh, beautiful. I love that. I love that. So now stepping into our masculine, feminine energy conversation and how this plays into happiness, because it sure does, right? Because if we're not in alignment, we can really, be stressed and worried, and we're not happy beings when we're out of alignment.
Burn ourselves.
And it's yes, right. And so, was there a time in your life where you found that you were operating much more out of your masculine, or maybe you were in more of a masculine environment and just felt like this wasn't me? It didn't feel right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. So, growing up, as I didn't really feel I had this role model of, powerful woman in the world and all that, I wanted to be that. I wanted to learn what I had to learn in order to, be unstoppable in life, right? So I thought, okay, this is it. MBA is happening. I'm going to take an MBA. I'm going to learn that. And I found myself at New York University after doing a communications degree, which was very creative, but I thought, no, I'm going to get into the business world and all that. So here I was, picture this, I was roller skating to school, wearing vintage clothing, and trying to conform to be a banker, because at that time that was the big deal, is that you got into banking. You know, it's changed since then, but that was like the summit of the mountain. So if I really did not fit in with that, you know, kind of environment, but at the same time, I appreciate that opportunity, everything about it. I learned a lot, but I realized after I interviewed for a few banking jobs that, honey, this ain't you. This is not you. You know, you know. So that was helpful to know, because sometimes the mold that you think you're supposed to fit in,
Right.
it's so off, so unaligned, and that's what I discovered after that.
So what was that shifting point for you, where you started stepping into your feminine, or you noticed that side of you really needed to be nurtured to create that alignment?
Yeah. Well, I think there were two turning points, actually. One was when there was a time when my mom had early stages of cancer, you know, and she wanted to, her dream was to open a manufacturing business with my dad, who had been a manufacturer. And this is what she wanted to do. So it happened that I was, after being away for many years doing all my things, I decided to come back, and I became the designer for this high fashion kids clothing line. And I had no experience, but something was very interesting, that when I was in my MBA classes and listening to something that was just did not resonate with me at all, I would take out a piece of paper and start doodling. And what did I doodle was fashion collections, you know, coordinated sportswear, really fun kind of stuff. And that was kind of giving me a message. It was a message. I chose at that time to just kind of suppress it, because I was intent on doing this masculine kind of path, but it was there. It was always there. So at this point, coming back, it was one of the things that needed to shift. And in the desire to help, my mom at that time, that gave me the opening. And in a way, it was a full circle type of thing. So that was one. And then there was a second time when kind of my feminine, primal, warrior, maternal instincts kicked in. And
Wow.
was right. And that, yeah, that was when, you know, my own child, as I told you the story, was suffering from depression and anxiety. And I became kind of one-pointed, you know, to focus on finding, you know, a breakthrough that was, and I scoured everything on the market, and there was nothing. It was quite very rigid and siloed, and I wanted to see a multidisciplinary and diverse way of introducing mental wellness. So we experimented. We got into it first with a film, then books, courses, online, school curriculum, etc. But that, I think, is a more feminine approach. It's both and, it's not just one pointed way of looking at things. And also, it was important to me to draw from, a spiritually grounded place, because it had to involve, yes, we said everything, and it was science-based, but the intention, the underpinnings were spiritual. And that was a spirituality that transcended all religions, more to universal principles. And that became my work.
You've really just created this beautiful platform for people, going through, different stages of their life, whether they're suffering from mental illness or they're just going through some
Burnout,
type of life
overwhelm,
transition.
Stress.
Right.
No.
Right. Yeah. Just lifing, right? You've created this beautiful platform for them. And so, in creating this platform, there's a lot of structure in a business, right? There's a lot of masculine components to it. So how do you continue to bring this spiritual side of Project Happiness and keep that feminine along with the masculine structure of a business? How do you keep them beautifully in harmony?
That's a great question. And I think the first thing is it's so important to nurture oneself, because we are at the center of our vision, right? And unless we remain aligned with our essence and what propels us, unless we have, there's no such thing as balance, but some sort of, flow, everything won't work, right? So for me, my spiritual practice has to do with meditation. I've done, I'm a certified yoga teacher in several disciplines, and Qigong has just become my new favorite thing. I just love it. And the energy that it gives me, I can just feel it buzzing through my body. It's like a reset. So I do a short Qigong every single morning, along with some of the other things that I do. And I think that is one of the things that grounds whatever we are doing as women in these turbulent times. We have to look after our inner life in order to project whatever projects or initiatives we're introducing in the outer world.
Mm-hmm. And how do you see that your life or your business in particular transformed by introducing or aligning and igniting the feminine side?
I think it's a more inclusive approach. It has not been rigid. We've allowed different countries who have downloaded our materials, and there have been about 120 so far, to customize them for their own particular circumstances. So, for example, in Nigeria, it would look very, very different than it would, let's say, in Costa Rica or something. So, to give people to honor people's wisdom. That's really, I think that's another part of the picture, so that they can make it their own, and to really trust in people, trust in connection, trust in love, trust in their ability to align according to what they know is right. So that's one of them. And just the idea of releasing materials, like the books on happiness, most recently a book on emotions, and even working with the so-called negative emotions. There's no such thing. It's all information. Emotions means energy and motion. So it's how we gain awareness of that energy and how we actually use it and channel it for our own dreams and goals, and to support ourselves instead of seeing it as a way of hijacking ourselves. So, and that is a universal conversation as well. I think it appeals to women primarily because they are more open to this conversation, but I don't want to close it off. There are many men that are inquiring. The world is changing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right. Yeah, more men wanting to step into the feminine energy, the feminine sides of themselves, and that's a lot to do with identifying the emotions that we're experiencing. And I love how you highlight the emotions as not being a right or wrong. They're neutral. It's an energy in motion. It allows even the children to identify with their emotions.
Oh, they
much more deeply.
They must, because when we, suppress, for example, and look at anger, there's 3 ways of dealing with it. It's either comes out in explosions, that's expression, let it out, but there's also suppression. And by expressing it like unskillfully, can leave a lot of burning buildings, a lot of people could be damaged in that wake. But that doesn't mean that anger in itself is a bad thing. Anger is a fuel for social justice. It's a fuel for creating boundaries when there need to be boundaries. It's a very powerful and important emotion. But so that's one side. Then there's the idea of people suppress their anger and keep it inside, keep on and carry on. But that can lead to depression, And then there's the third way, which is being aware of what you're feeling and actually labeling it and finding the ways to use that energy skillfully, to move you forward along your path. And that's, there's a saying from Dan Siegel, name it to tame it. So that's one of the...
Oh, I love it.
Right?
Name it to tame it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Randy, for your time and for sharing your heartfelt story and sharing your mom with us today and your daughter so openly today. And you have a free offer to present our audience today.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. I've, excuse me, I have recently become fascinated with this whole idea of reinventing our life as we change, realigning into, who we want to be, the next versions of ourselves, and so on. So I've created an online video series, which I'm so happy to share, and it's called Make the Next 10 Years Your Best 10 Years. And I'm, thrilled to make that available to your audience.
Such a generous gift. Thank you so much. And, if we can all gain some insight onto how to be next versions of ourselves every day, right? Every day.
Right.
So for the next 10 years, let's go.
That's the thing, because we have choices. We have power, we have discernment, and it's just honing in on that and letting ourselves know that all these are available to ourselves.
Yeah. Any final words for our audience and viewers?
Well, I think, as I said, this is the era, and the Dalai Lama even said it, it's the women that are going to take us forward, you know? So this is the era for recognizing the inner resources that we have, aligning with them, aligning with our innate power, our innate compassion, and our innate ability to lead and through love. So this is what I'm so excited. I'm so excited about what you stand for in the world and what we are bringing forward together.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And, you know, it's that one person who's going to hear your story or hear another woman's story in this event that could just transform their entire life forever. And so thank you so much, Randy, for being a part of this series and allowing me the opportunity to share you with the world. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Bye for now.